This is going to be another groundbreaking continuing conversations as Star Trek Klingons meets Dune. We have some amazing guests with us today. I'm Michael Dismuke. I'm a lead writer on Captain's Log, freelance writer for Star Trek Adventures RPG, a blogger on continuing conversations, of course. And this is not a show unless we have with us Jim Johnson.
Hey everybody, Jim Johnson. I am the project manager and line editor for the Star Trek Adventures RPG, the Captain's Log solo RPG, and I have the opportunity to project manage the Star Trek Lower Decks Buffer Time card game coming out soon, which I'm super excited about. It was neat to work on a card game instead of an RPG, and it's going to be super fun. I can't wait for people to get it and play with it. But also co-host on this here show with Michael, going into year 3, even pushing toward year 4 now, 150 odd episodes strong. So we're having a great time with this. Never a shortage of Star Trek stuff to talk about. And we've got a great topic for you tonight, talking all about Klingon houses and relationships to Dune and Dune houses. So we've got an all-star cast with us tonight. They've all been on the show before, so we can skip the newbie questions about favorite character, favorite series, although you're welcome to mention it again if you want, if things have changed, because in the last time we saw most of you, more Star Trek has come out, right? Like there's a constantly stream of new stuff. So maybe Prodigy is now your thing. I don't know. Maybe Dial is your new captain, or maybe Admiral Janeway is taking a special spot in your heart. I don't know. But we'll go ahead and just have everybody introduce themselves, talk a little bit about yourself, your current projects, and anything you want to plug, and then we'll jump into the conversation. So Kelly, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Kelly Fitzpatrick. I'm a writer for Star Trek Adventures. I got to work on the Klingon Core Rulebook, the Shackleton Expanse campaign guide, the Discovery book, and have written some other things for Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, etc. And my first tie-in novel is coming out next March. It is the life story of Captain Marvel.
What? I didn't know this. This is so great.
Super awesome.
Oh, God.
I can't wait to see it. I got it is it pre-orderable?
Yes, it's pre-orderable.
I think I pre-ordered it already because I got the ones that Dayton did, and the Black Panther one that just came out.
Congratulations, Kelly.
That's
so great.
Great, Kelly. Thank you so much. Excited to have you here as always. And next up on my screen is Andy. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Yes, I'm Andy Peregrine. I'm the line developer for Dune, so that's my baby. But I've done a few bits and pieces on Star Trek, usually nag Jim for a bit more if I can. A couple of scenarios and some bits on Starfleet Intelligence, which I'd love to do a whole book on. Let me do that one. I've freelanced in all kinds of other places as well. Yes.
Andy, I'm just going to listen to this back because your voice is so ASMR, calm app. I love it. I just have to say that.
Well, I've gone down to late night DJ voice. You see, you should hear me after a convention at Gen Con, because my voice after talking, I've learned how to project a little better at being in theatre, rather than, so my voice doesn't go, it just drops an octave. And do you want to buy some games? Yeah, you want to buy some games from me here?
I'll buy whatever game you're selling, man.
We should figure out how to do audiobooks for RPGs and just have Andy read all the Dune books. Awesome. Thanks, Andy. Happy to have you here. And last but not least, the rock star of the day, having just recently written the fantastic Autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, which I'm super excited for you, Derek. But introduce yourself. Tell us about what you're working on, and if there's anything you can share about your upcoming projects that aren't already hidden behind an NDA.
Thank you, Jim. I'm Derek Tyler Attico, speculative fiction author of the Autobiography of Benjamin Sisko. I've done work with Star Trek Adventures, all kinds of great stuff with you guys. If there's anything I'm doing now, nothing I can, like you said, nothing I can really talk about. I am starting a podcast, Soul of the Story, which is starting next month. Well, yeah, today is August still, right? So starting next month, which is going to be a really fun podcast. We're going to be talking to established professionals in the arts from different areas of the arts, and getting their perspectives on storytelling. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and that starts next month.
We'll plug that for you. Make sure to send us that link and we'll add it in here. That's so cool. We love that.
Definitely will. It's gonna be
All right.
and I'm excited to be here, and let's talk about Dune and Klingon Houses. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, let me give a little origin of where this comes from. So I've been playing the Dune game since last year, since I was at Gen Con and picked up the book. Andrew sold me on it, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. The first time I met Andrew. And as I was playing through it and building the houses, for anyone who knows Dunes, each house has a planet, minor houses, major houses, nascent houses. I all of a sudden struck me like, wait a second. This is very much how Klingon houses would operate, I think. And I went ahead and pulled out my Klingon Core Rulebook and started looking at the rules. And of course, this is both 2D20 systems. And I was like, wait a second. If I wanted to, I could go ahead and build my house using the Dune system and then import it into Star Trek Adventures for the reason that now I would have this deep background. It would be like the ultimate character creation event. So I've been talking about this idea, talked with Jim about it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to bring on the Klingon experts. I'm going to bring on the Dune experts and riff about this if people really want to explore this form of character creation in houses. So my question to you all, to just lead this off, is what part of Klingon culture do you think we have not seen on TV? That's going to be my first, and that you'd want to see. All right. A couple of weeks back, we had Eliza Pearl on the program. She talked about Klingon opera and all that. If you did not see that episode, go back and see that Blood of the Void interview we did with her. But let's start with that question. What part of Klingon culture would you want to see? We'll go backwards the other direction. Derek.
Okay. I'm trying to think if I should be a little self-serving here. I worked with Jim, and we came up with the Klingon intelligence service, like Section 31 for the Klingons, and we called it the Unseen. And so I think that would be really interesting, and perhaps to make that a house in and of itself would be kind of dope, because then if it's a house in and of itself, it would be a house removed, and that would be totally interesting and something that would fold into the Klingon lore, and it would fit along with Klingon lore, but be separate within Klingon lore. I think Jim might agree with that, and then that would be something kind of interesting. Other than that, I would say maybe science, because you have to have someone that builds everything, builds ships, builds stations. So
I like that. And as people comment too, Andrew, chime in, because how Dune works, for those of you who aren't aware, based off what Derek said, you would maybe invite a Klingon house that specializes in computer hacking or specializes in clothing that hides assassin weapons. And that would be the house that they've been doing for like 100 years. And people come to them for subterfuge and intelligence.
A removed house, an unseen, they call it the unseen, so an unseen house as well, I think might be something interesting that you can see.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of things like the Scorpion in Legend of the Five Rings, where say you've got the spies. I love the idea of these Klingons who'd go, we have like suffer discommendation to join this house or something, because we have to do what honor will never let you do. So we step outside. So like, the shunned and the forgotten, but also they've chosen to do this or something.
And is there honor in that? Is there honor in that?
Is there honor? Right.
Yes, it's that sort of we're the ultimate servants of the Empire because we're prepared to do anything.
Right.
Yeah, which is like, wow.
And they would probably try to marry into other houses and influence, I would guess.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Or even maybe you don't even know where they are. They're just out there somewhere. There's no
form. Right.
You know where to contact the people to talk to, but their agents could be anywhere.
So you get the ultimate honor. Being a member of the unseen, is that an ultimate honor because you can never talk about it.
Yeah, and it's dishonor to be caught. And it's dishonor to be caught, and then you know what you got to do as a Klingon. Okay, so that was a good launching point. Exactly what we're talking about here. Kelly, what about you? What side of Klingon culture have we not seen that would be build a house?
I would like to see more agriculture and interaction with the environment. because I just finished my degree in creative writing and environment. And so I'm thinking a lot about how sustainability and maintaining a functional biosphere is like essential to a society. And, sometimes we see Klingons as sort of like, go out and conquest and exploit and rule things, but you can only do that so far until the whole thing collapses on you. And so I want to see how there are systems on Kronos and on other places where they are creating sustainable systems or not, and what that's doing and how that is functioning. I also grew up on a small family farm, and that makes for really cool dynamics, and that could be a cool thing that sort of binds together a house or has been passed down through a house, is maintaining something like a farm. That might be interesting.
Do you think that house may have been warning for 100 years about the potential ecological collapse of Praxis?
Yep. That would be a fantastic conflict to run in a game.
Okay, that would be interesting. And what shunned them from being on the major, there's in Dune, there's Arrakis. Everyone wants to be on Arrakis. I compare that to the Klingon High Council, like trying to maneuver your house high enough to get onto the council. So what kept your family out of the council so that their warning wasn't heard?
It could be a whole bunch of different things. They could be committed to something that is practices that seem archaic or that don't jive with other things, or they could be using resources in a way that disadvantages some other industry or thing that's going on. And anytime you try to do things that are sustainable, they're not always profitable. Those two are frequently at odds.
Yeah, and the Klingon war machine that was building up since Kirk's time leading up to Praxis needed that dilithium for specific purposes, probably trying to shut down your house, right? So again, that's where if you pull in the Dune rule systems, you could actually knock it back from a major house down to like a minor house or even nascent, and that becomes the story without even involving the Federation at all. Mm-hmm. Right? That'd be deep. All right, and good. You guys are all getting the picture here as we go first round. Andrew,
although I would also going to add as well from what Kelly was saying, it would be interesting if things shifted and changed from that, because again, any culture is adapting and changing. So I imagine, say, this farming house going, Praxis is going to be a problem, and then when it is a problem, maybe the Klingons then listen to that, and suddenly this house gains in honor, and suddenly being a farmer or something is considered a more honorable thing than it used to be, and some of their warriors are considered the farm warriors or something, and those shifts, something as big as a whole planet blowing up, it would be might shift some of the perceptions of what is real honor and things, but it would be really a really interesting adaptation and change.
The idea of farm warriors, I'm on board.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and when you think about it, I mean, even in the future, an army still moves on its stomach, right? So it should be one of the most honorable things to be a house of agriculture, right?
Well, we know cooks are highly regarded in the Klingon Empire, right? So who's the house of Martha Stewart? It's making all these great recipes. Yeah. Jim, what about you, Jim?
Did we cover what you wanted to cover?
I suppose thinking, I was coming back as a theatre person in my sort of real job. The opera obviously makes you intrigued. I was thinking, of course, of your Klingons backstage. Is there as much honour being a backstage lighting person as there is as being a singer or a performer, of course, as well. But also, I love, we see a lot of, we have kind of seen a lot of, is the Klingon ritual. So we wonder more, I would want to see a bit more about what is that, their religions and their structures behind that and the rituals they follow. I love that idea of, they've killed their gods because, they got in the way. But there was still such a heavily ritualized culture. And there is a thing, my degree was in religion. They have a thing called civil religion, which is things like war memorials, where things that we treat as in a religious way, but are not involving specifically God or a particular religion thing, but we still have a religious way of doing it. And a lot of that comes into the way the Klingons deal with honor. It's not a religion, but it's a religious feel to it. There'd be some interesting stuff about how those two things relate, I would say.
How might you work in, if you're a player, how do you think that would work into an episodic campaign? Like, how would a Klingon game run with that kind of character?
I suppose we're moving to, and I say this advisedly, Jane Austen Klingons, in that in that idea of, we're coming from Regency Cthulhu things, the structure of the Regency with all these very clear social rules and things you must do and things you mustn't do. And then you have all these Klingons sort of, with all these ritualistic things, no, we do not speak of this on the third day of Motag, but I need to speak of it. Well, you can't. You must write a letter and you must burn it in the fires of this, or you must travel to a distant star and then come back before you can ask to court my daughter, and all these sort of things.
I love it.
You would have, I'm thinking, Jane Austen Klingon is what comes to mind.
Well, Jim knows I've created a Jane Austen roll table that we actually use in our Captain's Log play. And wow. I bring in the drama of Jane Austen into Starfleet because it's so rich, it's so good. But you're right, Jane Austen Klingon's even better.
Yeah.
Andy, you made Michael's night by putting in the Jane Austen reference, so we can check that box, Michael. Every episode we got to get a Jane Austen reference in there somewhere. But I just love the idea of, like, there's probably like Klingon Blade fans, and they have a whole language of, like, how the society has a whole language around the fans. Like, if you flap it a certain way, if you open it or close it a certain way, there's a whole sub language going on in there in circles. Yeah,
the language of blades. I love it.
But it's also a weapon, right? So it's not just not just a social tool; it's a weapon. If you
so I suppose mixing blades and rituals. I wonder if there could be houses that record the history of not houses and warriors, but the blades they have carried. This is the bat'leth that won X. It doesn't matter if the Klingon who wielded is long dead. This is that bat'leth that has done this, then done this, and done this.
So you're talking almost like an archaeological house, a historical archaeological house. Oh,
but they also track the weapons that bring honor to those who carry them. But you've also got to prove that you're worthy of that bat'leth, because this is the bat'leth that won the great battle of such and such. You don't just hand it out to anyone, and you don't want to be the Klingon that screws up its reputation. Oh yeah, and then we gave it to Bob and he was useless. That could be a whole issue. So that'd be a load of pressure when you get.
I love as a character's backstory, because remember, the point is build your house first and then play your character. Imagine if your father says, "We're not giving you this weapon." But Dad, I inherited. I'm of age now, almost like Mjolnir. It's like, nope, you're not getting it because you haven't brought enough honor to our house. And maybe that's why they joined the defense force. It's to go try to. They're artist family, museum curators were like, okay, I'm going to have to join the defense force until I get enough honor to get this special weapon. That's kind of a really cool backstory there. Yeah, Jim, your house, what would it be doing?
I love all these ideas. I think in the previous episode with Eliza, we had talked about a Klingon USO, like a traveling troupe of performers who would actually go from outpost to outpost, entertaining the troops, right, and having the fresh targ and the entertainment and all that stuff. That's a great. I love that idea of having like a traveling bunch of skalds or bards or something that are Klingon doing things. But I think because Klingon history is so vast, I think a house that's devoted to the archaeology and the anthropology of the Klingons, like going all the way back to even the Herc, and getting all that history, I could see that would be a really cool house. And they would have so much information that they could probably tie into Derek's intelligence agency and even the farming agents. Like, they would have so much information, and a lot of it they would probably keep it to themselves and like maybe dole it out when they needed to, and have very quiet conversations with certain other houses to share that vast wealth of knowledge that they have on all things history. And I mean, there could even be like a sub house of people that track the genealogy and have like big family trees and how all the different houses interacted, and the houses that have come and gone and have collapsed, and the ones that are rising, the ones that are falling. I could see them just having this massive database of insider information, and you could even get a little sinister, and like maybe there's a sub house that is pulling the strings and like manipulating things so that certain houses rise to power and certain houses come down, all based on the history of the empire.
Well, let's talk about the structure of the house. Oh, go ahead, Andrew. I thought it would segue over to you. Yeah.
I was going to say, it's another Dune link that's very like the Bene Gesserit, keeping track of all the genealogies of everything and trying to nudge it towards some sort of, in this case, the perfect Klingon or something. And,
right. And I'm glad you said that, because the Bene Gesserit, people may think, oh, they're a nascent house, but actually they are they weave their thread so that they can still have direct links to the major house or even Arrakis. And so I was going to ask Andrew, for people who have never played Dune before, maybe even never read the movies don't clearly say it. It's better to read the structure. Can you talk about nascent, minor, and major houses? Just can you give us a blurb on that real quick?
Yeah. The quick version is I wanted to make sure that when you play Dune, you don't have to play as the tiny starting out house. So the sort of structures we've worked out, nascent house is simply you've just been told by the Emperor your family is a house. You've got maybe an island on a planet somewhere, and you've got something important you do. A minor house is a vassal house to one of the larger ones. So they and several other minor houses serve a major house. A major house is actually one of the houses that controls a whole planet. That's where we're looking at House Atreides in Dune would be a major house. And then
so go ahead.
Yeah, and then the last one is the Great House, which is a bit of a nebulous title because it's sort of an honorific title. Those ones we put are like House Harkonnen, who own several planets. So it's like the idea of saying, do you want to own several planets when you start this game? That's just fun. But it's
I want to create the comparison. Scale. Yeah, so I want to create the comparison. So if we were to start at nascent house, I'm going to guess House of Quark. Is that a nascent house?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay. So he helped out somebody economically, and so he preserved a family through marriage, and they gave him a house, right?
Yeah, okay. You've got a name. You're on the list, but you don't really have a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. And so then what would be a minor house in Star Trek, what we've seen so far, maybe Deep Space Nine or some of the other stuff?
Well, I suspect House of Moog, or at least Wolf's family's house, after it suffers its fall, it's still, it's a little bit difficult because they've lost all of their stuff as well at that point. So they kind of dropped all the way down. But certainly in terms of title and what they used to be, might be mine. But I don't know if Klingon houses would quite have an analogy to minor house, because in Dune, the minor houses are vassals of a specific house, kind of looking to come out from underneath them. So very few Klingon houses might admit that they're minor houses unless they are, looking to try and consume subsume the other house from within to a certain degree.
Which would be maybe like, I was always thinking about House of Chang. Like if that was a house, General Chang had the prototype technology for the Klingons, but he wasn't, he was serving what we would consider a great house, which would be, why did I just forget the Chancellor's name? Gorkon, which would be considered a great house, right?
Yeah, I would imagine you've got certainly subdivisions within a house. So the family that looks after your medical traditions, or the family that looks after your targ pits, would be your minor house within the main Klingon house, and looking to marry and shuffle up the ranks in some way to.
Yeah, and I like to say that because when playing if we're designing this game and thinking about it, you're designing your character, you could be part of a house, though you're part of a minor, I'm going to call it a minor house right now, because you serve Gorkon's house. You could still claim to be, I'm House of Gorkon, because you're in that line, and that could have some political advantages, or in the game Star Trek Adventures 2E, a trait that could actually be a penalty for you in discussing with, because basically if you claim House of Gorkon, but this other Klingon house hates you and says, I'm going to kill you because you're a fan, you might this time claim your minor house, like, oh, I'm House of Martok, or what, I'm House of Moldu, just so that you don't piss them off, So I was just thinking about the politics of that, which might be super cool.
Well, it's also like thinking as we come from the UK, where we have the United Kingdom, and you see in the news that, it's a shame that Scotland have lost at the Olympics, but otherwise, if they do well, it's a great win for Britain. And you go, oh, right, okay, I see how this is going. So
exactly.
I think there was,
Yeah, I think I have to go back and refresh my memory on the on either the Klingon book or just the history in general. I thought late in DS9, I thought Worf joined House Martok, and so what was left of House of Moog, kind of subsumed into Martok's house, which would make, I guess, the House of Moog a minor house with whatever whatever remained.
Yeah.
And then other great houses would look upon that and say, okay, well, House of Moog is protected by House of Martok. We don't want to screw with them. We're going to leave them alone.
There you go. That's how I'm thinking it.
Yeah.
And maybe if you get enough time with Martok, they say, you know what? You get your own fleet of ships. Now you're a grander house. That's how I would kind of play it with the Dune system. Derek, you had a question?
Yeah, but it's not really a question, like a thought. I was thinking maybe like a minor house would also be houses that over centuries never really had any major accomplishments or any significant wins in wars or battles. And then, just by definition of that, they're not looked at as dishonorable, but in Klingon eyes, they're not looked at as overly honorable or overly looked at as elevated in status. So then by default, they become like minor houses. That would be a way to write it in the game, I think, maybe.
Yeah, because maybe, I would think that maybe you want to be a little autonomous. Say if you're from a backwater planet, you're kind of trying to attach yourself to a house for some reason.
Yeah,
right. So there could be some advantages to that. So here's my next question about this. Let's talk about the geography of the Klingon Empire. We all focus on the galactic west of the Klingon Empire, which is head to head with the Federation. But there is a lot of Klingon Empire. So where do you think? Let's start with Kelly. What do you think is going on in the center or the far galactic east, far galactic south? Like, what could your house have been doing while these other ones are warring with the Federation?
I would love to see a Klingon outpost on a planet that has an environment that completely wrong-foots the Klingons are there. That they're just not expecting. It's an oceanic planet. It's a planet where gravity works very strangely. It's a planet overrun by things that look a lot like tribbles. Like, I don't know. I would love to see them not in the, we're conquering or colonizing this place, but like maybe we just need a listening post here, or we really just need like a little stopover point. And so this house, for whatever reason, has been stationed here kind of alone in the middle of nowhere on a planet that's just super strange. And there are bizarre things that happen because there's got to be frontier places that they're not in control of.
Yeah,
and maybe that's where most of the honor comes from. Instead of it being a case of, oh no, I've failed, I get sent to Siberia. In this one, it's like, oh no, I'm really good. That's why they sent me to this weird planet. That's like the best posting you want is the difficult, tough, crazy planets. That's where you want to go if you prove your honor. They only send the best there, rather than all the disgraced people down to the horrible places.
Like it's going to test you like mentally and physically and everything.
Yes, this queue of Klingons going, that sounds awful. Let's go. Brilliant.
Well, are we assuming that every direction they went in, that they conquered, that is just a given for Klingons?
Until they meet Romulans, obviously.
I think a lot of people assume that that's like their primary objective, but like you can't possibly run an empire that way. Like you will burn yourself out. And so there's got to be places that they're like, we need to be here temporarily, but we're not staying, or we just need to stay here for a certain time.
Yeah, I made an analogy. I'll repeat again. Like there, you go to Italy. I went to Italy, and I went to a small town called Cinque Terre. It's on the Western Mediterranean. No one spoke English there, but I was trying to get to the boats, and I went to the woman. I tried to use some lame Spanish, and she didn't understand me. And I said Navy, and she went, "Oh!" Right in her mind, she connected American Navy boat, because it was so predominant there in World War II, and she was probably in her 90s. She got me exactly where I needed to go. And so I had made an analogy before that for many Europeans, their vantage point of Americans is the army, the military, because that had such a huge cultural impact on them in the late 1940s into the 1950s. But did that really define an American? And so likewise with the Klingons, the Federation, that was their first contact, is a very hostile. And then that's the way Klingons presented themselves. Well, the Klingon military houses presented themselves. But is that really Klingons?
All of them. And we get to see some Klingon bio-researchers and things in Enterprise, and we know there are folks in all walks of life. So yeah, I'm very fascinated in the non-military aspects of their culture.
Wow. Yeah, just listening to you, I would love to poke around the idea of maybe the Klingons have a second contact, team or family or something where the military, the warriors go in and beat down the new species or whatever they find, right? And they discover, oh, wait a minute, this is a planet or a culture that we could actually benefit from. We're not just going to take them over and raise the planet for resources. We could actually build something here, or maybe there's a reason for them to build something here. So then the warriors, establish things, they leave, and then the diplomats come in. What's the Klingon diplomatic corps look like? That they're still warriors, but they're more focused on the, we need to make nice with these people so that we can get what we want, but also keep them around because we don't want to completely just wipe them off the face of the earth. We want to do things that would be really interesting, I think, tying into some of that stuff.
Love that.
Yeah, I'd be interested as well to consider how the Klingons deal with more primitive cultures, because you've got, the Federation has the prime directive and says, right, anyone pre-warp we don't talk to. But I don't know if the Klingons necessarily have those sort of rules, but would they feel it honorable to dive in on a group of people who are completely unequipped to fight them off,
right?
Or do they wait till they get you're not worthy of taking control of yet once you've reached warp, then we're going to swarm in with warships or something.
Well, yeah, and I don't see Klingons going to this mild, peaceful, paradisiac planet with islands and all these peaceful natives and start smacking people around. I just don't see that being anything like we've seen portrayed on TV.
Yeah, I mean, I can easily imagine Klingons landing on such a planet and saying, "You are now all part of the Klingon Empire," and they go, "Okay, go." Off you go. They go, right, brilliant, we're off. And it's sort of as long as they've said, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, in fact, Andy, that would be a really interesting idea.
Yeah.
If they go to a planet and they're like, okay, we're annexing you to the Klingon Empire, and that culture was providing something, or was really something meaningful to where they could become like a minor house unto themselves, or maybe I guess a nascent house in this respect, so that you have a non-Klingon house having influence in some degree in some part of the empire, maybe may or may not, make machinations to become a minor house or even a major house, part of the council or something. But we know that Klingons have historically, used slavery, have picked up other cultures, other species, have incorporated some of those species into their own culture. But even though we don't see it on screen, we know that there are non-Klingons in the Empire, right, in some degree. And it would be really interesting, could one or more have exerted enough influence with their Klingon neighbors to have risen themselves in stature, right? I don't know if there's an equivalent to that in Dune or not, but that could be something.
So I was going to say, otherwise, it's other Klingons go, wow, where do you get these amazing tapestries? Oh, nowhere in particular. They say, yeah, we made them. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. And then they discover the secret tapestry planet of House Thang and destroys all their honor. You didn't make these tapestries at all.
In the Klingon Rulebook, when I did the worlds, I talk a little bit about that because with the Elosians, the Klingons took over their world, and I think I wrote basically that even though they took over their world, that the Elosians were in many ways controlling or not ruling over, but manipulating what the Klingons were doing because they're Elosians, So yeah, there is that in there, and I think that's smart that the Klingons can't control with an iron fist everything because it's just not possible, right? It's just not going to make sense, right? So.
Yeah, so you could have an alien from the Klingon Empire on one of their ships. I wonder, I would write a story why when you see, when they encounter Federation ships, there's a conglomeration of different species on the Federation ships. but you don't see that on those frontline Klingon ships. Is that different the deeper you go into the Empire as they collaborate with other species, right?
Yeah.
And then just like, why do you never see a Nausicaan on a Klingon ship? To me, that just makes kind of sense, you know? Or the species that were in Rura Penthe, you see this diverse set of aliens.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously they're existing within the Klingon Empire to end up in prison. Who are these species?
Are they all conquered species, though?
Correct. And if not, why not?
Why not? Right.
Yes. Maybe you could also have species that are given jobs that aren't considered particularly exciting and honorable, like manning communication posts. And yet this is the species that now knows everything that is going on in the Klingon Empire because they're seeing all the messages and they literally know everything that's going on. But as far as the Klingons are concerned, these are just the guys who pass messages around.
Yeah.
Or waste extract, because that's not considered honorable. So they give it to somebody that they conquered. But then now that race knows everything that's going on because they're in every world. So
of course, when something great happens with waste extraction, then the house takes all the claim for the innovation. Like, so Andrew, another facet of Dune, which is different, and so I want to talk to people who are thinking about maybe combining these two rule sets into one cool rule set, is the pacing of Dune. It's way different than Star Trek Adventures. So can you kind of talk like a little bit about the pacing and how that might play into a Klingon Build Your House campaign?
Well, I mean, Dune works over thousands of years. I mean, you talk about, the film, the novel is set in the year 10,191. And what a lot of people forget is the zero of that year is actually the formation of the Guild, which is about another 10,000 years after where we would date zero. So you've got, and then houses work over millennia, House Atreides and things keeps going long times. Of course, that's, there is still, it's a different type of warfare between these, because I'm thinking the other large difference between Dune and Klingons is that Klingons are sort of more honor and reputation, whereas in Dune, houses are basically corporations. It's their mercantile and monetary power that is what's winning things, because in Dune, getting your ships to take military things across is very expensive. So you don't have the same space battles.
See, I find that kind of similar. Let me just pause real quick. I kind of find that similar because not every house in Klingon, not every house is flying around with a fleet of ships. So wouldn't they be then? Like, I actually think the Klingon Empire has more in common with the Ferengis when it comes to houses getting elevated and commerce. So couldn't you imagine that that's part of the Klingon Empire, that negotiating to get on a ship or to get fleets of ships?
I mean, I think there's certainly there'd be a corporate thing to some of the houses, because again, you're going to have the guys that do the best targs, the guy that do the best operas, things. I imagine, though, there may be a difference in that if a lot of Klingon houses make operas, they can prove which one's the best, and they do, but they'll have other things going on. Whereas in Dune, it's in your interest. If you're the guys that make operas, you want to make sure everybody else does not make good operas. You want to take down any competition, because getting a monopoly is the ideal in Dune. I mean, it's the thing I always say. What I love about Dune and Star Trek is they are polar opposites as a general thing, because Dune is a capitalist hellscape where there is no diversity, there is no equality, and it is all humans, and also they've there's Okay. Whereas Star Trek is a wonderful socialist utopia where everyone is equal, there is a massive diversity, and people are nice to each other.
But we're talking Klingons here. We're not talking Federation.
Yeah,
we're talking Klingons.
Exactly.
Right. So that's why when I was reading through both the books, I was like, Klingons are more like Dune. I think they are a monopoly.
Yeah.
I think they do want to consolidate their power bases to keep their houses going for 1,000 years.
Oh, yeah. But it'll also depend, of course, on what they can maintain with their honor. Because, again, in Dune, you have ones like the House Atreides that are known as the honorable house that do the right thing. But you can have, in fact, a more powerful house as Harkonnen, who are known to be, nobody trusts them. They are awful. Everyone knows they're awful and despicable, but they are still at the right hand of the Emperor. They're running Arrakis. They've just put their money where their mouth is and says, we'll sort it out. And they've risen to the top of the social hierarchy.
Okay, now you're selling my point though, because when we see Star Trek Discovery Klingons, they look different, they're bald, they're eating each other on defeat. So you're telling me they weren't ruling by fear?
Yeah. So you can mix. You certainly mixed. It depends. Like also, it depends on your house and what you choose to be. There's a certain chosen morality, and I think you're right. From both Klingon houses and Dune houses, they're like, if you own a planet, if you rule a whole family, you can decide what's right. You can decide what's more dangerous. You can decide what's moral, and that it's where things become very difficult, very dangerous. Yeah,
and that to me would be the intrigue of a Klingon Star Trek campaign is. You don't have a prime directive. You're trying to influence what the directives are for the houses. That to me would be an intriguing game.
And that also becomes your weakness. How can I exploit their way of doing things without crossing the way I do things? And my honor and my way of my morality for things, and still do well. So,
yeah, I'm curious, Andy. In Dune, like I'm thinking about the Klingons, and I'm thinking about the monastery that's in charge of the time crystals. Right, that's a big thing for to have that little niche in the Star Trek universe. That they're the only ones who have time crystals, as far as we know, and those are super powerful things. And they're very careful about controlling those and not letting them get out of hand. Is there an equivalent in Dune where there's a house that has like this big powerful secret thing that they're in charge of and managing and don't really want other people to have a hand in? Is there an equivalent to that? Is it the Bene Gesserit again? Or
yeah, you've got the Bene Gesserit, you've got the Bentalilax, who also do that thing of we're kind of technically houses in that we're an organization you can link with, but they're not really houses in the same way. They're kind of outsiders. A similar one being Ix, the planet, the sort of machine planet, which has found its way out, but originally it was a house. It was called House Vernius, and that's kind of shifted itself out of the structure by proving it has this useful thing it can do. So that they're the ones making guild highliners and things like that. So they prove that if you're good enough, you can actually step outside the system and say, you can call us a house or interact with us if you like, but we're not going to be bound by the same rules. And that has advantages and disadvantages. And you would have to have something absolutely unique, say like a time crystal option. Then of course somebody else gets hold of that. What happens? Oh, we've got time crystals now. So, do you want to buy our time crystals? So I wonder how many other Klingon houses, particularly minor houses, looking to differentiate themselves and get their own thing, are thinking, well, look, why don't we just go and nick a time crystal from someone? I mean, it's not good, but, it's a bunch of monks. Surely that's an easier way of getting there. And
hire Derek's house to go get it.
Yeah. And everything goes wrong from there. So you could add some player characters to that, and it could go very badly wrong. Yeah. So
interesting. Yeah. I just riffing off of that idea. Wouldn't it be neat if there was a house that had some sort of MacGuffin that made them important enough that they kind of sidestepped the whole Great Council? Like maybe the Great Council said, oh no, we're going to offer you a seat on the High Council because we need to kind of keep you under control. And this house said, you know what, we don't need to be on the High Council. We're just going to kind of just be over here doing our own thing, kind of maybe not watchdogging the rest of the High Council, but we're like, yeah, we're happy being a Klingon house, but we're not going to be part of your thing. We're just going to do our thing over here and kind of like see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, that could even be a useful thing. I mean, I don't know quite if this is true or not because I'm not an expert in any way, but I believe there was a sort of Romany tradition where all of the men would sit and would decide what was going to happen. And then they would take that decision to the leader, the eldest woman of the camp, who would then, she wouldn't discuss it, but she'd say yes or no. And if she said no, they had to go right back and discuss and bring her another option. And it was that sort of balance. So you could have a house like that that's respected for their knowledge and their wisdom, but they don't get to take part in council. They don't get to discuss it. But if it's going to pass, they have to say yes. And that would be really interesting.
Almost like
How
a
would you
house
get into
of
that
like a
position?
house, like a group of prophets
Yes.
of something, or
or the house that decides what is and isn't honourable, or something. So yes, that is the right path for the Klingons to take.
The honor
that
guard
is the correct honor way. This other thing you picked, it's not honourable, so no. But we can't tell you how we think it should be changed or what we should do. We just say, no, that's not honourable, and let you go back and make your decisions again.
You're basically talking about lawyers. You're talking about lawyers who interpret the law, is what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think in a certain way, yes. But,
and Klingons, they do have Klingon lawyers, so
that would be such a great character, because he'd be so he would be so annoying to have on your ship.
Yes. But sort of lawyer and judge at the same time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that sounds more like a judge to me, or a judiciary panel, like Klingon Supreme Court.
And of course, now I'm thinking of Judge Dredd as a Klingon, which kind of works, weirdly. Yes.
I was just picturing how my character would be walking around inside the ship or wherever, judging everyone, like, oh, not too honorable. Not too honorable.
Yes.
Just annoying everyone.
Put your name in the notebook. Yeah.
Yeah, we see so often in like Next Gen and DS9 when Klingons get together, right? It's like some things are honorable and some things are not honorable, and it's really kind of flexible sometimes. It's kind of like the Prime Directive, right? Is this honorable? Is it not? It's very circumstantial. But like Michael, you're right. I love the idea of having this character on your ship, and I envision them having like this big tome in their quarters, and it's like they'll take in all the information. And it's like I'll go consult the Oracle, and they'll go and they'll look at this ancient tome of like what's honorable and what's not honorable, looking at the T-bar of what's honorable, not honorable, and they'll just try to find it somewhere. And if they don't find it, then they'll just use their guidelines and their best practice, and they'll say, no, this is not honorable. And because they've got the weight of the history of their house behind them, everybody else is like, oh, fine, all right, we'll go figure it out.
Yeah, and it seems to be like each house would want, we said this might not be its own house, so each house might want somebody from this guild in order to argue why what they did was honorable or not. Because remember, they always have to go before the Klingon High Council when things go bad, and so you really want a lawyer there to say, no, actually, according to subsection 3 in the history of Zartog 9, you want to be able to pull all that out to show how honorable you are.
Or imagine if you've done something shameful, but it hasn't been made public yet. You're like, well, if I can just get to their book and just tear the page out, or where they made their notes, then there's no evidence, and they can't get me for it, and they can't announce my shame at any point.
And it's whoever writes the opera too, because if you can make the opera popular that says through propaganda how it actually happened, now your goal is to get your opera into circulation, right? I feel opera is propaganda in the Klingon Empire, how you write your story.
Yes, well, we come down to there's sort of a written, I imagine they're more written now, but certainly I imagine Klingons having quite an oral history beforehand, and it's very easy to adapt oral history. Unfortunately,
exactly.
It has been done so many times in the past for not very good reasons.
Right. So I'm encouraging people. We'll have one more go around, maybe a couple ideas to introduce people to the idea. But I'm really encouraging people, if they want to build a Klingon game, to maybe make the session 0, where everyone rolls up maybe 100, 200, 500, 1,000 years of history about your Klingon house. That way, because if you notice what Worf always does, he goes back and tells these stories that are relevant to his character now. It's almost like career paths for the characters, but we're talking about don't refer to your career, refer to your house and the acts of honor that have brought you to your location and make you worthy to be in this room or on this bridge, right? So that would be kind of my invitation. I'd love to hear the stories. We'll post them on Continuing Missions. I know that the next campaign I'm playing with my group is a Klingon campaign, and we're all going to roll up our houses by ourselves first, and then kind of have a around the fire session of, this is my house, this is my legacy, my story, this was our industry that brought me the honor of being designated on the bridge. I deserve to be here. We're going to have that kind of energy to our game.
I'm curious, Andy, in relation to what Michael was saying, does Dune have that mechanism where you're doing like a life path for your house, where you can go back thousands of years and build it as you pull it together? Is that system kind of in place? Michael's nodding his head, so I'm guessing.
Yes, no, I'd love to do a through eras, but so we've got. I should sort of say
We lost him.
We lost-
It's okay. He'll bounce back in. Sorry, he's all the way in England. Everyone else, just so you know,
Yeah.
the transatlantic cable must have got cut by Iron Man or something.
Derek's secret Klingon house has cut off the transmission.
You didn't want
Before he can say anything, right.
There are some secrets about to come out that had to be sanitized.
I can answer the question for you.
Sure.
From my perspective, it's very similar to the Federation Klingon War, where you can play like a round of action, which symbolizes a year, and then if you want to, you can drop down into a mission, and and that affects that year story. How I would adapt it with the Dune rules is I would say, hey, before we even get into a mission, I want you all to roll up 50 rounds of history, 100 rounds of history. It's really easy to do. It's a really quick system when you do that. And so that's what I would do, is just do that as session 0, is just build major events. You could say, like, for instance, one round, you could call it 50 years. You could even call it 100 years. Wow. And it's going to explain to you what your house accomplished, what enemies it made, what steps it took to gain or lose power in that 100-year segment. So you could do that like 10 times and have 1,000 years of history and enemies built out of it. It's really, they have a random table for enemies that popped up in that 100 years, and you spend your points. You only have so many resource points to invest in your industry during that time period.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things I was going to ask Andy right before he got cut off is that I was going to ask him if they used any Pendragon concepts when they were working on the houses of Dune, because Pendragon is a game, of course, based on the Arthurian legends, right? And in the character generation component of that, oh, hello, kitty, and my kitty's making a visit. Doesn't usually do this, but must be dinner time. In Pendragon, when you're creating your character, you actually start off in the timeline. You start creating your great grandfather, and you figure out how much glory did your grandfather generate through certain historical battles and historical events, and then they die during your character generation, and then their father, your father is your kind of character through a little bit of character generation, and you roll on some tables about how they worked out through certain battles and certain historical events related to the Arthurian legend. And so your character starts off with a certain amount of glory based on what your dad and what your dad's dad did, because that kind of like influences how you're perceived, right? Because you are either the child of a powerful glorious knight, or some chump who showed up at the battle and got killed in 10 minutes or something, right? So it influences how you start the game, where your level of glory is. And I was wondering if there's a way that you could play with that a little bit and kind of.
I think I would do it now. Actually, I think your way's better. I actually would skip doing a 100-year segment or 50-year segment, and I think I would do like 5 or 7 generations of family.
That'd be cool.
I love that idea. All right.
It's a time investment, though, right? I mean, certainly it's not just creating your character; it's creating everything around it, right? But Klingons, everything we've seen about Klingons on the shows, like their houses matter to them, and they are the son of X or the daughter of Y, and that has meaning for them. Don't bite me.
Great world building. Okay, and as we're going toward our wrap up, anything Kelly and Kelly and Derek? I know that we brought you in, dragged you into this idea. Any last ideas that you would encourage someone to throw in, or you would like to talk about?
Would just like to encourage everybody to play and combine things to make whatever kind of experience you want. Like, the 2D system is really great in a lot of ways, and I think customizing it to have the gaming experience that you want to have is such an excellent idea. So if that means crossing over with Dune rules in your Star Trek, or Star Trek life path in your Dune, or whatever that looks like, it could be really, really fun. And I also love that this approach allows us to kind of fill in some of the more human or non-military aspects of the species in this world. That's really awesome.
Definitely. Derek?
Everything that we said, everything that Kelly just said, and just sitting here listening to everyone and thinking about the High Council, it just dawned on me, well, if there's a High Council, that kind of intimates that there are other councils, right? So there may be a judicial council, a science council. So, branch out. Don't be afraid to do that. That's what the Klingon book does. That's what it does. That's what it allows for. And just have fun. Right?
You just blew my mind. You just blew my mind. So your goal for your character could be to get to the lead of the science council, not even.
Right.
Oh
right.
my goodness. Or the
Right,
agricultural council.
Agricultural council.
My goodness.
There may not be houses. I'm just sitting here listening, thinking like there may not be houses, but there may be houses and there may be councils. Because if there's a high council, that means there's a lower, right? So there may be council of science, council of agriculture, council of this and that. And so, and then, it may be between. So that's just how I think, man. So, yeah. So
it's wide open enough where people can world
wide
build
open
this.
once you do that, right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
oh man, see, I love these conversations. All right, Jim. Anything before we round out to gratitude?
I was just going to say we've got a great campaign in the start here. We've got Derek's intelligence house member, and we've got Kelly's ecological type of character. And we've got Andy's
and I'm the opera house
a theater guild kind of character. And we've got my anthropologist archaeologist, right? So there's this little team that could be like a militant Greenpeace going around saying, no, the environment is really super important and you're going to listen to us, and here's the historical background for it, and we've got secret intelligence on you, so you will listen to us or we're going to blackmail you honorably. Of course, we're going to blackmail you honorably.
And if not, I'm going to write a mean jingle.
Yeah,
I want to play this so badly.
I mean, it's not even a mean jingle. Like we are going to adjust the operas of your house to change up the names a little bit, and because like history is written by the victor, right? So you make the opera house angry. They're going to do a little creative rewriting, and all of a sudden your house not looking so good.
Yeah, don't worry, Kelly. You just got to dream like us. Me and Jim dream of retiring one day, and we're all in like some RPG village somewhere, and we just play our. Instead of playing bingo all day, we play RPG all day, all retired. So you're welcome. You're welcome to Shady Trek. Or, I don't know if that's a good name. Shady Acres. I don't know.
Whatever it is.
All right. Gratitude. So let me start it out, and then we'll go Derek, Kelly, and close out with Jim. I'm going to thank Andrew, who got cut off. So I'm not going to thank the transatlantic cable, but I am going to thank Andrew Peregrine for coming in to this. And of course, the whole 2D20, Modifius, the project managers like Andrew, like Jim, who are just so willing to riff on stuff like this and be so creative. So thank you, Andy, for having been with us through most of this. Derek?
I'm going to thank the fans and the people that love playing RPGs, because I think it's just fantastic that fans have really gravitated towards STA, and there are people that have never watched Star Trek but love STA, and because of that now watch Star Trek. So I think that's a beautiful thing, and I just appreciate that, and I love that. So that's my thing.
Andy, you reattached the cable.
But my internet just decided to completely fall over. I do apologize.
Well, you came at the right time because we were all doing gratitude, Kelly, and then we're going to move it over to Andrew for our closing gratitude, and then Jim will close out. So Kelly?
I am going to thank the folks who are making new Star Trek, both in game format and on screen. I'm rewatching Prodigy for an article that I'm writing on a book that I think many of us are involved in, and just really, really appreciating that show. And so I love that we have constantly fresh content coming out and really great games to play.
Very good. Andrew, your gratitude?
Oh, a mixture. I mean, basically anyone who plays any of the games that we work on, it is one of the things that I absolutely love as a games designer, is you see things come back at you on the internet, particularly if someone runs a scenario that you've played or you've written, and you go, oh, you've done some awesome things. Every time you see someone do awesome things with what you've done, and it is lovely to be at the starting point and then just see all the amazing things that come back from the players. So thanks to everyone who just gets involved in any of the games that we make. Dune or Star Trek. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, Jim, close us out.
Yeah, I'm grateful to Michael. I'm grateful to you and to Jeff over at Studio Tembo for originating the podcast and giving us the opportunity to pull colleagues together and talk about all this cool stuff and riff off of each other to just come up with even cooler ideas, as a group as opposed to just individually. I think that's the strength of Star Trek, right? Is like we're stronger together and more creative together. And I love doing this kind of stuff because it sparks so many cool ideas about stories to write or maybe something to drop into another supplement somewhere down the road if we can fit it in somewhere, right? But absolutely, more than anything else, I think, especially now 8 years into Star Trek Adventures, we've got to thank the fans. I think if we didn't have the fans, we wouldn't have done a second edition. I've said that many times, and I'll keep saying it. The fans have been so supportive of the game and of each other, and are just carrying it forward. And I'm just thrilled to be involved in it. So thanks, fans. This is all for you. We're doing this all for you. So keep doing it, keep having fun. And if nothing else, having talked to Andrew this week and Nathan last week, 2D20 is a super flexible system, and there's so many versions of it now. You can cherry pick all the cool stuff from all the different games, Dreams and Machines, Dune, Infinity, Star Trek, Conan, whatever, and make your own 2D20 stew of whatever you want it to be, right? In fact, at some point we should make a Conan / STA riff, and because I bet there's some combat rules in Conan that would port right into a Klingon game.
This is what I was going to just say, just to plug my game, that I've got Space 1999 coming out soon. And the reason I wanted to do that in 2D20 is because I wanted that to connect to Star Trek, because there is so much potential to cross over and just jump between systems with stuff. So that was like 2D20 straight there.
I'll plug Al Spader's Sentience. Sentience could totally play into Star Trek Adventures. It's amazing. Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
Yes.
So it's a great ecosystem that we've got here for 2D20. So just if you're a fan of it, definitely even just grab the system reference document, the SRD, and cherry pick all the cool stuff, because we're cross pollinating all over the place, and it's making all the games better. I think it's lifting everything up. So fans, have fun with it. You have a wealth of material in front of you.
All right. Oh, go ahead, Andy. Close us out.
I was just I don't want to close out to drag too much, but just before the internet cut me out, I thought what might be useful, because I'm assuming we're being watched mostly by Star Trek fans, is if you want to see the rules for houses for Dune, the core rulebook has the basic idea for how you create houses, and then we have a book called The Great Game, which is where you find what we call house management, and that's the one that tells you how to take your house through the ages, do things.
That's the one I used.
Yeah. And if I could take any rule, my favorite rule of all the things I made is that one of the things you pick in Dune is an enemy of your house. And this ports over into Star Trek nicely, is that at any point the GM can spend a threat and bring a member of that enemy house into the game. They don't have to be doing a plan. They don't have to be doing anything particularly aggressive. They're just there. So you're in the marketplace. There's one of your enemy houses there, or he's in the pub, or he's at the party, or anywhere you want to go. So it's a nice, easy one to port across. That's my favorite rule.
It really is. And we'll have to maybe I'll write a mailed up article and continuing missions about how to adapt. Ooh, that's actually probably I should do that. I'll probably end up doing that because I'm like that with my Game Masters Bibles. So I'll probably end up doing an adaptation, and I'll send it to you, Andrew, when it's ready to go.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. All right. Well, IDIC.
Live long and prosper. Be safe. Be well. We'll talk to you all real soon. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, guys. Thank you.